Knowledge for Men, episode 76.
Welcome to knowledgeformen.com, where you're going to grow into the man you want to be. Your life will never be the same again. I can guarantee it.
Hey guys, one of the questions I've been getting a lot lately is, can you put together a list of the best books and success quotes from all of your guests and combine that into one guide? And so I've actually just done that. It's called the top 30 books and success quotes every man must live by. So out of all of the podcast episodes I've done, over 60, I finally put together this guide, and you can download it for free at kfmfree.com. Again, that's kfmfree.com. All right, guys, I'm here with Stephenson. He's faced an army of reasons to give up in life. You see, he suffered more than 200 bone fractures by the age of 18. He's 3 feet tall and is permanently confined to a wheelchair. Yet despite these challenges, he took a stand for a quality of life that has inspired millions of people around the world, including Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, President Clinton, and His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. And Sean's now spoken in 47 states, 11 countries, and has been seen on Oprah, CNN, CBS, C-SPAN, Jimmy Kimmel Live, New York Times, and he's on a mission now to rid the world of insecurities. Sean, I'm honored to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
All right, and we always jumpstart the show with a favorite success quote of the guest. So, Sean, what do you got for us?
I would say, I think this is an unknown, anonymous type quote, but it is, in order to do the impossible, you must see the invisible, meaning you basically have to see something that's not even there to start heading in the right direction and creating all your resources until it does become there. It's like Walt Disney when he was standing in the marshland in Orlando and said, "This is where Epcot Center will be." Everybody was like, "Are you crazy? This is a marsh. This is disgusting." And he saw it. He was able to do the impossible because he was willing to see the invisible.
Oh, I like that. And I think that's where innovation is going to come from when you're looking through those type of lens.
Absolutely.
All right. And Sean, you've got an incredible story here, and let's hear it from the man himself. So go ahead and share with the audience your journey and your story of how you got started with what you do.
Sure. So my story gets interesting at birth because I was born into a container that has its own set of challenges that most people don't have to deal with. I was born into a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, causes the bones to be extremely stunted in growth and extremely fragile. So something as simple as sneezing growing up as a child would like break a collarbone or ribs. And they told my parents, the doctors that is, that I'd be dead within the first 24 hours of my life. And what I love is that 34 years later, all those doctors are dead and I'm still here and I'm the only doctor remaining. So you can't always believe the experts.
Yep, that is very true.
So with this condition, it causes my bones to be more fragile than anybody else's. And I use a wheelchair for mobility because my legs can't support the weight of my trunk and body. And I also am extremely short. I'm about only 3 feet tall. But with all that said, and everything I went through with all, by the time I was 18, I had 200 bone fractures, numerous surgeries, tons of different complications with my body. My teeth have been problems my whole life. So like I can't even chew the way normal people would chew. I actually have to use my upper teeth and my tongue versus my teeth actually coming together to grind. And that's very rare that people actually can chew using upper teeth and tongue. But you adapt when you have no other choice.
And with all this, I could just see, like a challenging time growing up through school and into adulthood. And yet looking at you right now, like you're full of life and zest. And it's just, what kind of lessons have you learned from this journey?
So have you ever heard of the term, the curse of knowledge?
No, but I think I know what you're going to say.
So the curse of knowledge is once you learn something, your brain does two things. It thinks that it's always known that, and it thinks that everyone knows that. And that's why the knowledge it can be taken for granted. So there's probably a ton of lessons here that we can certainly dig up. But so much of my life has unfolded slowly. I was late to develop in terms of my relationships and dating. I didn't have my first girlfriend until I was in, like, serious girlfriend until I was in my mid 20s. I had a lot of fears and issues around dating and insecurities because being 3 feet tall and in a wheelchair, I was pretty convinced that that was a condition that no woman would be attracted to. And so I had to face a lot of internal demons, insecurities that were telling me that I was ugly or deformed or that no woman would ever find me sexually attractive. And that was a massive journey to untangle my power from my fears. And I think that's a journey we all go on as men. I think we have different fears. I think we have different powers, but it is really a process of untangling the two. And I've basically put on a life performance, if you will, that says that my condition does not define me. A lot of people get upset because I don't do a ton about having a disability, and I'm not in denial that I have a disability. I'm not in denial that I'm 3 feet tall in a wheelchair, but I don't feel like that owns me or defines me as a man, no different than somebody's ethnicity or sexual orientation or hair color or eye color. I don't feel like you have to walk around the rest of your life doing everything that centers on that condition or that element to your life. And so I've instead focused on all the things that I could do. And I realized that people remember me. They don't see somebody that looks like me very often. And that is a great power because I stick in their minds, whether they like it or not. And if I can couple that visual billboard, if you will, with a powerful message of transformation or levity so that their life feels a little less difficult than after they leave my presence, then that's when it can get really powerful in life. And I've gone on in my life to really do a lot of work on myself still. I mean, I have put a lot of time and attention into my physical strength as well. My doctors, basically, the doctors that came later in my life, said that you're going to continue to fracture your bones and there's nothing really you can do about that. And I don't like anybody that says that this is the way it is. I think that that's very close-minded. I think that's somebody who's obviously not an innovator. It's somebody who's not fearless. And so I put a lot of time and attention into changing my diet and adding a powerful exercise regimen so that I haven't fractured a bone since I was a freshman in college, which was nearly 20 years ago. And I have also put a lot of time and attention into meditation and working on clearing out my mind and working on balancing out my masculine and feminine energies. I was raised by two very strong parents. My mother is a very strong woman. My father is a very strong man. And so I feel very balanced in my sexual energies. But I think that whenever my life gets out of balance, it's because I'm stuck using the feminine to try to run my life. And as a man, your feminine needs to just be something that you access for creativity and access for nurturing abilities, but it's not where you're going to get your power. It's not where you're going to get shit done. You have to access your masculinity, and a term we call alpha, and really getting in touch with being the most significant, powerful person behind making sure that your mission in life is lived out.
And on that point, can you elaborate just a little bit more? I think you're really nailing something right here.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I meet most men, and I'm just going to focus in just temporarily on heterosexual men, because that's what I know best at being that I am. And heterosexual men, we were born with a container where we are attracted to the opposite sex, right? And it is so easy in the society now. We have a bunch of guys who were raised by a single mom. They didn't have a masculine figure. And no matter how strong and alpha the mother would be, she's still a woman. And I found that in being a therapist now for the last 14 years, that there's a lot of men who are very comfortable with their femininity. They're comfortable being creative. They're comfortable being soft spoken and like just being very charismatic. And they're very comfortable being a good nurturer and like good with children and good with people. And they're very social and emotionally connected. But when it comes to being decisive, they are friggin' lost. They can't make a decision in a moment of intensity to save their life. And that is a masculine trait that the alpha male really masters well, is the ability to make a plan and take action and without second guessing oneself. And that's something that I've worked on. Being that I'm only 3 feet tall in a wheelchair, I had many opportunities to feel inferior to other men because of just physical size alone. But then one day, it kind of dawned on me in my mid 20s the holy cow, there are some really powerful, physically big men that are so not in touch with their masculinity that they are bossed around by people their whole lives that it doesn't your size and container does not dictate your ability to get shit done and be awesome. And that's when I started working on my masculinity, working on the ability to be grounded. Masculine energy is not what most people think. A lot of people misinterpret alpha and masculine with being machismo and arrogant and intimidating. And I don't think that they're the same. I think that a true masculine alpha leader has nothing to prove to anyone because he knows he's the leader. He knows that he's going to be the one that when time is called upon him, he will deliver results and results that will improve his life and the lives of the people he loves around him. And so what I've done is really study alpha in depth and study about what does it take to be alpha and what does it take once you're alpha, what happens when you're alpha. And alpha is a powerful thing because in everything from science to mathematics to biology to social evolutionary psychology, you find that alpha is a term that means the most dominant, significant combination of resources and powers in an individual or an animal or a system. And so an alpha mentality comes into a scenario and says, I bring value here. And I don't question that. And that doesn't mean I need to take or steal or do anything to lessen anyone around me to know that I am worthwhile. And in developing my own alpha, I found that the more alpha I became, the more women were attracted to me. The more alpha I became, the more money I would make. The more alpha I became, the more other men turned to me for leadership abilities and leadership direction. And so I really fell in love with studying these polarities of masculine and feminine. And I find when my life is in the tank and I just feel like crap and I am just totally lost, it's because I'm trying to run my life predominantly by my feminine. I'm trying to be all emo. I'm trying to be all soft and creative and flowing and like that's there's a time and a place to access that, but that's not going to get you out of the mud as a man. That's not going to cause explosive results where people take notice that you're actually one that can be counted on. And vice versa for women, which I know they're not on this podcast, but it's important to understand this about women, is heterosexual women, when they try to run their life with their masculine, their life melts down because they're trying to be so dominant and aggressive that they're not sensual, they're not flowing, they're not creative, they're not soft, they're not submissive in a good way where people around them, they're not receptive. And so I love one of my mentors who says that all problems in our life are an imbalance of sexual energy. And it's true. When I'm not where I want to be in my life, it's because I'm running my life from my feminine, not my masculine.
This is a really important topic. So then now let's dive deeper. What does it take to become alpha? And what can guys do to become more alpha? And then equally, what's preventing guys from becoming alpha?
Well, a few things. I actually have a program called Alpha where I go into 3 days about this, but I'll just kind of give you a synopsis temporarily here. And that is, what it takes is, first of all, getting knowledgeable on the difference of how you're being when you're in your feminine versus your masculine, and notice that you get different results. And when you're babysitting a little child and you're trying to be all alpha, that's not necessarily going to make the child feel comfortable. It's not going to have that child feel nurtured. That's a time to dip into your feminine and be compassionate and kind and soft. But when you're wanting to be in your masculine, like in a work scenario where you're going for a close in a sales opportunity, or when you're being challenged in a confrontation, that's sometimes a time to dip into your alpha. And what a man needs to do as he grows up from being a boy into a man is he needs to realize that there's a difference between being a prince and being a king. And a prince wants instant gratification. If you're just racing around wanting to get your rocks off and wanting to get paid big amounts of money with doing very little amounts of value in exchange, if you don't get your way, if you act all out of control, if you're still dangerous and disrespected, or you're gross and demeaning and degrading, you're in your prince. You're just being a little punk ass, and you're not tapping into your true powers. And so you have to really kind of look at, are you being a prince or a king? Because a king doesn't need instant pleasure. A king is aware that things take time to unfold. A king is someone who sets up his life so that opportunities come to him. He's not having to chase anything. When a king walks into a room and talks to a woman, he brings an energy that is so solid and secure with himself that it brings this woman to a place of feeling that can transition into how she is around him. She can be comfortable in her own skin because she knows he is. And so a big part of that is realization and studying the differences between our immature and mature masculinity. The next thing is we do have to face our fears. That I'll meet seminar junkies, guys that'll read 100 books about confidence. They'll go to a bunch of seminars, mine included, and they won't do anything with their knowledge. They won't apply it. And it's like, how many books can you read about swimming? But if you've never been in the pool, you're not going to do very well. Same thing with riding a bicycle or being in martial arts. I can teach you, okay, here's how you block a punch, but until you've been punched, you don't know why to block a punch. You actually have to get into the experience in life. And so what I do is, to develop my alpha, I build a list of what are the things that scare me most. And then I start knocking things off that list. Some things take longer than others, and some things are just immediate and short. But when we come out of the experience of our fears by actually going through them and coming out the other side, we realize, oh, wow, I just burst through that fear. What else could I burst through? What else could I have? What else could I do? And that's what that sense of adventure, that power that tells you that there's more to you than you've been, is that masculine. It's the one that wants us to climb and go after more and have more. And I think we've really emasculated as a society men, that we make men feel bad for wanting sex, money, and power. And I disagree. I think that when you come from a mature masculine space, sex, money, and power is actually good to have. When I see men that are needy and they're not getting laid and they don't have any financial resources and they don't have anybody listening to them and respecting them, they are the most unpredictable, dangerous, cowardly individuals on this planet. So I think when a man actually has a sense of bursting through those fears and working on his mature masculinity, he's capable of doing far more with his life and for the planet than if he was just to stay an immature little bitch.
So what's making him act this way? Is it he has insecurities and he's acting out this way because his insecurities are just eating him up? What's going on here? And if it is the insecurities, how can he get rid of them?
Well, let's get to the root of what an insecurity is. So an insecurity is the feeling that you're not enough, that you're not tall enough, you're not strong enough, you're not wealthy enough, you're not experienced enough sexually, you're not
You're not the right race, for example.
Right, exactly. You're not the right race. You're not the right. You don't have enough of education. Whatever. It's the feeling that you're not enough. And whenever you play the game that you're not enough, it'll never be enough. So if you don't feel like you're strong enough, you'll get into the gym and you'll work your ass off and you'll build muscle tone. But if you still feel like you're chasing, trying to fill enough externally, it'll never be enough. That's why guys will start doing steroids and continue to like bulk up, bulk up, bulk up. It becomes an obsession. It's like I meet these guys and they don't feel like they're enough in their sexuality and their ability to attract women, and they'll sleep with over 100 women and it's not enough. They're trying to fill a void. And yeah, it looks cool on the outside when you're in that space of being dazzled by the pickup artist in him. But truthfully, if he's a mess in every other area of his life, he's not a man. He's a boy that happened to trick the system.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think a lot of guys enter the pickup community, and with time, of course, they begin to see results. If you're doing anything, you're going to see results. And, they mistake these results as them transforming into a man. But what they've really done is created a someone or a persona that is really far from who they really are, and it's far from their core values.
Not just that, I found that if you are trying to satiate and fill up a void of your insecurities that you're not enough with external things like lots of sexual encounters or steroids to make your muscles bigger or more and more money, that you will continue to chase that. You will be forever hungry and thirsty for more, and not in a good way, in a draining way, in a gratification that never ends way. So what I recommend that men do is they start to study fulfillment. And the difference between gratification and fulfillment, well, gratification is about the prince. It's about wanting now. I want the pleasure now. Don't make me put in the work or the effort. Just give it to me now. Whereas fulfillment says, I'm willing to put in the time. I'm willing to put in the effort. I'm willing to put in the blood, sweat, and tears. I'm willing to look bad for a while. I'm willing to look broke for a while. I'm willing to look stupid and confused for a while, because ultimately I'm doing something for a long-term benefit. And whenever we're fulfilling ourselves, what we're doing is we're either growing our mind, body, or spirit, or we're contributing to humanity or the planet at large. And I can tell you, as a therapist for 14 years, I've seen a lot of suicidal people. I've seen people come into my office and tell me what they don't want to live anymore. And what I think is interesting is these people that don't want to live anymore, all of them have one specific commonality, and that is that they are not growing anymore, and they're not doing something bigger than themselves. They're not contributing to humanity and the planet at large. They're not leaving a legacy that they know when their bones have perished from this planet, that their results and their efforts continue to flourish. And when you find what you're supposed to do to leave your legacy and what you're supposed to do to make an impact on humanity, to nudge the human race forward in its evolution, then you're unstoppable. Because if you don't get laid that night, you don't care. You're going to go back to working on your purpose. If you don't make big money that day, it doesn't matter, because you're not in it for just the money. The money's great. I love money, but I can tell you that it's never satisfied me the way that helping somebody in need has satisfied. And you don't believe that in stage one of your evolution as a man. In stage one, you really desperately want to fulfill that insecurity that I'm not enough from external things. That's stage one. Then you finally get what you thought would make you happy, and it doesn't make you happy. That's stage two. Stage three is, okay, now I need to go search out what will actually sustain my happiness, sustain my level of value. And then once you get that, then you spend the rest of your life working on that.
Well, that brings up another question. It's like, when do people really start to do the things that make them happy? Or when do people really start to live? And you broke it down. It's like, number one, they're trying to get something, like girls, for example. Then they finally get the girl and realize that it doesn't, they're not completely fulfilled. So then they have to start searching for what really makes them happy. And, when do people really start to live is the question I'm posing. Because as we know, like people start living fully, they start really recognizing that now is the time to live when they get closer to death. Maybe when they retire, closer towards the end of their life. And what I'm suggesting is we reverse that formula and start living now and start finding that purpose and discovering who we are now so that we can start living and we can start doing the things that we want to do now and live a life worth living for the next, whatever, 40, 50, 60 years.
Well, first of all, I've faced death several times, and I can tell you that it is a motivator, but I think it's a temporary motivator because I'll find people that will have cancer, let's say, and they'll quote beat cancer, and the cancer will go in remission. And you give it enough time, and they can slip back into their old ways. I'm a big believer that happiness and fulfillment and what you're calling really truly living your life, it is a process daily that we need to undertake through following a system that works personally for us. So, for instance, I have on my office wall right here a board that says When Life Works for Sean. And there's about 16 things on this list. They're action items, things I can do. I get in debates with people that say that happiness is a state of being. I agree. It is a state of being. But there's a second component, which is you also have a state of doing. That sometimes it's what we're doing that can then create that feeling of being. And so for me, it's things like hydrating. Actually, when I have my water with me and I'm bringing in something as simple as making sure I'm getting enough ounces of water in my day, the electricity in my brain is running better. It's things like keeping my office and my house and my car organized and clean. It's things like connecting one-on-one with my wife, Mindy, and making sure that we're on the same page in life. It's things like having at least one meal a day for me of all vegetables that just, if I eat like crap the rest of the day, but I have at least one meal a day of dense micronutrient foods, that is what sustains my quality of living. It's things like spending time with my little niece and nephew and contributing to their life. It's things like reaching out to my mentors and asking them what they have learned today and what they recommend I can implement from their learnings. And the list is about 16 things. But I only need to do about 4 of those 16 things to feel like I'm totally alive in my life that day. And there are days when I don't do anything on my list of 16, and it doesn't even matter if good things happen to me that day. I feel like a whiny little bitch. I feel like I'm overwhelmed and I'm getting in my emo and I'm getting in my like dark negative attitude where I feel like nothing's going my way and I'm kind of grumpy and yet if I do these things on my list, even if bad things, quote, things I don't want to happen, if I've stuck to my list, I'm a rock. I'm solid. You can't get me off my center. And so I tell men what you can do to truly give access to yourself to actually feel your power as a man is create your When Life Works list and then just do a quarter of the list a day and you will have re-energized your mind, body, and spirit, and you will feel most alive. I don't think it just comes down to a thought of like, today I'm going to be grateful. If you're grateful, but you're eating pizza and drinking a shit ton of beer and you're not exercising and you're sitting there jerking off to porn all day and you're complaining because you don't have enough money, you've totally gotten off that original thought of I'm going to be grateful today. So I'm a big believer that yes, thoughts and affirmations are powerful, but man, setting up an environment where you are doing what works, that's what gives you your confidence. That's what gives you that rock solid ability to know that you are valuable as a man.
Yeah, I like the do, like the action items. I can look at my affirmations and read them in the morning, and it can be 2, 3 o'clock, and I completely forgot most of those affirmations. I have to review and keep doing them in order for them to be effective.
Well, and that can be on your list, right? Going over your affirmations. Like I have on my list, reviewing my life goals and vision and purpose. And so, like, just reviewing what I'm working on at the time. I've learned a ton from Eben Pagan, also created the pen name David D'Angelo. And Eben's become, fortunately, a dear friend of mine. And Evan continues to rewrite his goals, what he's working on. He doesn't need to do that according to people who think he's already made it, but you don't make it in life. You continue to make it in life. I built this career of mine for the last, gosh, let's just say since I graduated college, for the last 14 years. And over the last 14 years, I've noticed that it takes time to do cool shit. I mean, it takes time to get things like a book written and published and put out into the world in numerous languages. It takes time to land a television show. It takes time to save up 6 months worth of your savings so that if something were to happen to you, you have financial backing for a while until you get back on your feet. It takes time to sift through lots of different sexual partners until you find one that you not just lust for, but that you love and that you want to do the rest of your life with that person. It takes time. And as a king and as a mature masculine powerhouse on this planet, you need to develop your patience by actually taking steps every day. But when you just want something and you sit around bitching and complaining that it's not being handed to you, days go by and you get further behind from where you'd like to be.
Right, and I think that's what leads a lot of guys to quit, is because they're not seeing the results they want soon enough when they're putting in work. It's like, I'm putting in the work, why am I not seeing the results? I've been doing this for 30 days or 60 days, and that's just not long enough. There's got to be more time involved. I found that, success is really just little steps, little 1% built up over time that just leads to success. It's a marathon. And with that said, Sean, it's now time that we enter the knowledge round. Are you ready?
Well, I heard the noise. I'm ready to do this.
Do you ever have so many books to read that you end up not reading at all? You have so many books in your library, on your list of books that you want to read, but you don't know which books to tackle first? I know in all of my episodes, I ask guests, what are your favorite books? What are your most influential books? And they always list 3 or 4. And I always ask guests for their favorite success quote. I find that quotes can be so powerful sometimes, yet there's so many available. So what I've done is I put together a list of the top 30 books and top 30 success quotes that I think every man must live by. And these are directly from guests on the Knowledge for Men podcast. And as you know, some of the guests on my show sold their companies for millions of dollars. They're running billion-dollar organizations. They're dating coaches. They're health coaches. They're entrepreneurs. They're celebrities on TV. They're mixed martial artists. Just this wide variety of great minds. And I put together a list of the top 30 books and top 30 success quotes that every man must live by. You can download this guide for free at kfmfree.com. Again, that's kfmfree.com.
Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
Sean, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's currently depressed and they're just not hopeful for the future?
Go out, find somebody that has a worse life condition than you, meaning that they're in a lot more pain and misery and they're dealing with struggle that's way greater than you can even understand, and support and help them. That depression is an action step of selfishness.
Well said. And Sean, what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
The belief that no woman would ever be attracted to a 3-foot-tall man in a wheelchair.
And for other guys who have, similar limiting beliefs, what kind of advice would you give to them? What can they do to overcome that limiting belief?
Yeah, I would say is become the kind of man that would attract the woman of your dreams. Create a life that's inspiring and exciting and adventurous, where you actually are doing good things for the planet and you're working on your wellness and you're working on living the good life. That is so desirable to that woman that she can't help but fall in love with you.
And Sean, what makes a man?
Well, I would say what makes a man is his comfort in his own skin. It's his ability to have a higher purpose than him, that he is actually propelling the human race forward because of his presence in this time period of his life. Being a man in this day and age is actually about being decisive. It's about knowing who you are. It's about not needing to take or demean anyone around you to know that you are valuable and important. And being a man in today's society is actually about living a life that is so enthusiastic and so high vibration that other people look at you and say, "What do you know? Because I need to learn that."
Well said. I like that. And I'm sure that's happened to you. And Sean, can you name a person who's been a mentor to you? What did he or she tell you that was really an impactful moment?
So it was Tony Robbins, the first thing that comes to mind. And Tony taught me two things. One thing in business, make money while you sleep, which is about passive income and the power of that. And the second thing that he taught me that's far more important than money, which is motivate people for their reasons, not yours. And that's so true. I mean, when I see people that try to sell me on something in business or in life or get me into something and they're motivating me for all their reasons, I just laugh at them. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Do you not understand that I have to get on board with what you're asking? So find out what's important to me before you start telling me why I need something." And so, whether I'm working in a business context or I'm working with my wife and wanting to align with her, if I am motivating her or the people that I love around me, like my friends and my family and her, I have to find out what pushes them forward. What are they excited about? What is the carrot that is pulling them forward? And then how can I help them get that? That will inspire them, that will move them forward.
And Sean, this will be challenging for you as an author, but what are your three most influential books and why?
The first one would be The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. The second would be The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the third one, I would say, would be The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Not The Art of War, but The War of Art. The reason why I would pick the first two from the same author, it just happens to be that the same person wrote those two books, but they're very different books. And The Mastery of Love is all about how love, that if you keep searching externally for love, you'll never find it. The second one is about four principal guiding lights, if you will, that will help you in your life. And that takes an hour and a half to maybe read that book and a lifetime to master it. And the third book is about getting out of your own way and actually stop being a selfish little punk ass and really do something bigger for humanity. Because when you do something bigger for humanity, everything you ever dreamed of in your fantasies come true as a byproduct, as opposed to making them the most important thing and then not really feeling fulfilled.
All right, and as you guys know, you can pick up one of these books for free at kfmbook.com. If you go to kfmbook.com, you'll be able to pick up one of these books for free in audiobook format. And the next question is, Sean, imagine, here's a scenario for you. If you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self, what would you tell him to do and what would you tell him not to do?
Yeah, I would say this. Sean, study everything about marketing in your business. Really understand that as long as you're mastering marketing and implementing marketing strategies from the best, you're going to grow your business. Financially, Sean, get excited about saving. That spending is never going to be as valuable as saving, and know that you're going to live a long and healthy life. So don't be afraid to spend it all, because you're going to have far better life financially if you save it up. Third of all is not everything is about sex, and that sex is a great thing, but there will come a day where you will wake up next to a beautiful woman that's naked in your bed every morning. You'll have sex with her every day practically, and you'll find that that is not the end all be all. But more importantly, know that you're a badass. Know that you don't need anybody else to save you or help you, that you can be an independent, powerful man, and that work on your fitness, your wellness, and your financial health, and you're going to be all right.
Wow, great words of wisdom right there. And Sean, what's one thing that could add massive value into someone's life right now?
Tell the story, that you want your life to look like, not the story of what you think your life looks like. Meaning, most people go around telling everybody and themselves where they think they are and why they think they're there, as opposed to telling the story of where they want to be and what they're grateful for having. So you have to tell the story of the life that you want to live, not the life that you think you've lived. And that as you tell that new story, new things come about. When you keep telling the story of why you don't have what you want, you continue to not have what you want. You have to be very careful of what the story you're telling about your life and where you're headed and where you've been. So I think it's very underrated to actually future pace yourself.
Yes, very underrated. And now just taking a step back and just kind of looking at what we've discussed and talked about and the things that you've accomplished in your life from your childhood and the challenges that you've overcome to the inspiring things that you're now doing. It's truly a remarkable story for you. You're a leader of men. You've written best-selling books and inspired some of the world's most inspiring people, right? Like the Dalai Lama and Anthony Robbins and Oprah. And so now looking back, what is your philosophy on life and success?
My philosophy on life is you need to do a lot of going inward, and that most people spend their whole life on the external world collecting money, wanting sexual conquest, wanting validation from people, wanting to be in charge of others, wanting to climb a ladder. They put all this time and attention into the external world. But I'm here to tell you that if you put a lot of time and attention in the internal world, you'll get all those things and more. That by working on going deep in your own mind and your own soul and your own potential and actually looking at the things that scare you and facing them and doing the things that scare you, by going internal, you'll get farther in life than being so fixated on the external. Now, that doesn't mean just sit there and contemplate your navel and not do shit with your life. It means actually going within your own psyche and your own soul, if you believe in a soul, and really working on untangling what you are afraid of versus what you're meant on this planet to do. And as you do that internal work, all the things that you are craving externally, they'll show up with a lot more ease. I can tell you that a lot of people are inspired by me and they say lots of wonderful things. And then there are also people that hate me and think that I'm an asshole and arrogant. And you know what? In the end, neither of those groups of people, their opinions really matter. Even the ones that are praising me, that's not what matters. What matters is, what do I think of me? If I'm proud of me, then it doesn't matter if the whole world's hating on me. And if I'm being mean to myself, it doesn't matter if the whole world's praising me. What matters is the relationship I have with myself.
All right, well, Sean, I can't help but say that you just changed someone's life. I mean, this episode has been very powerful. I know there's someone out there that's listening that was deeply moved by listening to this episode. So, all right, that concludes the knowledge round.
What do I win? What do I win?
Oh, it's coming in the mail. Just keep checking the mail.
Okay, nice. Perfect.
All right, and Sean, what's waking you up in the morning? What's getting you out of bed?
What wakes me up in the morning is my wife, Mindy. It's fun to just open up my eyes and see the woman of my dreams lying in my bed. What excites me is also I am doing some cool things right now in my life.
All right, there you have it. And Sean, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story and life lessons with my community. I think this has been a very invaluable episode to the Knowledge for Men episode list.
Andrew, thanks for doing what you do, man. I really appreciate your impact on this human race, and I'm very grateful you reached out to me.
All right, and that's going to wrap up episode 76 with Sean Stephenson. And if you want to follow up with him, you can reach him at seanstephenson.com. And the challenge item in this episode is going to be, just like what Sean does, is to make a list of things to do, like action items that you do that make you feel good. So make 10. And it's going to be simple things like what Sean had: drink water, eat good food, having conversations with his wife, things that you like to do. What is it? Is it working out? Is it going for a run? Is it cooking? Is it taking a cold shower? Is it taking a warm shower? What are action items that you can do that will actually, if you do these things, even if you just did 3 or 4 of them a day, that it would make your days that much more impactful, and that you would continuously be living a happier life because you're doing the things that you know already make you happy. All right. So if you complete this, you can go ahead and email me your list at andrew@knowledgeformen.com, and I'll be sure to share with you mine. All right. Until next time, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast show. It's been a pleasure having you be a part of a thriving community of men who want to crush it in all aspects of life. I'm on a mission here to inspire millions of guys, and with your help, we're going to make a dent in the universe. Check out knowledgeformen.com for a ton of free content that's designed to help you live a remarkable life. Again, that's knowledgeformen.com. I hope to see you there. And always remember, 2014 is the official year of the crush, where we take action to get the life we've always dreamed of. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and until next time, let's do it.